JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. Thursday, June 12th, 3:37 p.m. on this Friday afternoon. Just a really quick rant here. Another one of those I wouldn't even call it a frustrating session, but S&P is up about a third of a percent after this morning looking like, oh, here we go. The Bears are going to take control, keep us under 600 on the SPY. The U.S. dollar was weakening. Oh my gosh, the U.S. is going to lose its reserve status, currency status. And then just everything that comes up when the market has a little bit of weakness, a little sign that, and then all the bears come out and you hear the same kind of things we heard all the way up, and now even just now, Janet Yellen expects tariffs will hike inflation to 3% year over year. So, I mean, this is the same Yellen who said that inflation was transitory back in COVID. So the famous last words. I'm not dismissing anybody or what have you, but most times they don't know exactly what's going to happen, right? They're all just making guesstimates. A lot of times the guesstimates are wrong. So anyways, you take a look at the SPY. We bounced off the lows in the morning, down 599. The PPI data came in cooler than expected, so kind of added a little more credibility to that CPI data, and almost up to 604 at about 11 o'clock, and we've been chopping ever since in a very tight range. Funny how it works with the data, right? If the CPI data yesterday was weak and PPI data today was weak, when I say weak, like hotter than expectations, like not good stuff, all the bears and the headlines, oh my gosh, look at this horrible data. But if it's cooler than expectations, there's going to be more headlines now around how the Doge cuts impacted the Bureau of Labor, Bureau of Statistics, so that the folks who normally check the price on a monthly basis aren't there, or we don't have, there's not as much a sample size, so that data is inaccurate. And of course, spins as it's bearish, right? Needless to say, it just means obviously the data might be not as precise, but of course there wouldn't be talk about that if the numbers were hotter than expected. So that's kind of the overall market. 597 and 604, so that's still holding true here. And then tomorrow's gonna be a key session. The US dollar's off the lows, yields are dropping. Actually, yields are at the lows of the day. So all good stuff. And then you have to think, this data just adds more fire or fuel to Fed Chair Powell and the Fed finally be able to cut rates. They're not going to do it at the meeting next week. I mean, it's 99% probability, but you have to think at the following meeting might be the next one. All right, so that's quick. So now on just on some other names. So GameStop, obviously, I mean, just destruction since it's earnings, and then they announced another $1.7 billion offering, or whatever it was. The thing is, these offerings, these debt raises are good terms, right? All it is dilution. When you say dilution, of course you don't. When you're a shareholder, you don't like dilution, but when it's used to grow the business in a way that might be severely accretive to their earnings and revenues and all that fun stuff, like it's a good thing, and they got good terms. It's not like they're paying 6% on it, zero, right? The issue is they're convertible, and then it's 2030 and 2032 on the maturity dates. So they do have their shareholder meeting today. So I guess some rumors, or at least some comments came out of Ryan Cohen says they're going to focus on their trading card business. Uh, I don't know if people are worried that he's going to use that to acquire companies or to grow that. I don't know. I just know, if you NFTs, right? I mean, that used to be such a huge thing. I mean, it still is. It probably will be in the future. But I know so many people who do back into the trading cards, the Pokemons, even baseball, all the sports memorabilia, things like that. So it's definitely a sector that maybe is disrupted. I don't know the addressable market for that. So, but it plays right into their trade-in kind of business, right? They have that business model instead of the video game side, which is not the same, right? A lot of it's digital and what have you. But so we'll see how this all plays out. Today, the craziest thing you would see, and I remember it was like, I'll have to go find the chart. It's like 2014 in August. It might have been like August 2014. The SPY, the SPY, traded in a 1 cent trading range for 30 minutes. So this is the closest thing that I've seen to that in recent memory. And the difference here is GameStop. I mean, it's the SPY trades hundreds of millions in volume. GameStop has 100 million shares traded today. So not only that, they have over 1 million contracts traded. It's like 700,000 calls, 300,000 puts. And between 153 or whatever and 232, there was a 1 cent trading range. That's just, so I don't know if someone just had a huge block order, but typically if they did, is it like, okay, just sell the 2155 and then it just sat there until it got cleared out. I don't know, but you can see the spike after. It's just crazy how a stock, I wouldn't even call it, I mean, is it manipulation? I don't know. I remember when Facebook did their IPO, it got such bad reception that one of the firms actually had to backstop it, right? They had to say, okay, we're going to put a floor at 22 bucks or whatever it was, and they bought all the shares that are being sold at 22 bucks. So I don't see how that's not manipulation either, but just crazy stuff. So in lieu of that, you start looking at the further out strikes, and like even October's, despite the big plunge here today, I mean, it's down 23%. The stock is down more than the October contracts, and that's and some of those have bounced. So remarkable stuff. I'm just gonna wait for the dust to settle. I unfortunately, I did play some calls earlier, flipped them for some profits, and went back in on those July strikes and taken a beating there. But I still like this story long term. Uh, the cash hoard, the passive income, and all the different levers that Ryan Cohen could pull. So all right, rants for other days there on GameStop, so that's disappointing. Then just some other names quick. SERV, like out of the gate this morning, it was sitting at 12.50 in the entire pre-market, and boom, spikes right out of the gate. It was 13 bucks. I tweeted like I'm in or something like that, and go. It just kept going. It hit 13.60, and then when I got the calls, they're June strikes, so I thought, okay, there's a certain time frame. Got to worry about the closer it gets to expiration. I need a large move. And then it was getting to move in the morning. I looked at the calls and they were almost a double. So I went and locked some in to cover costs. And then I held the rest. And then sure enough, gave back all the gains and then some. I still love this story here. I mean, I did my rant this morning. Maybe I'll go in more detail when I get a chance. But I think it trades north of 15. And you take a look at the chart, it's tight, right? This trading range is tight, all things considered. And it's been chop tight. The chop has been very tight too. So it's not like it's just sitting melting higher or melting lower. It's in a nice trading range turning, which I think sets up for the next leg. So that's SERV. I'll wait. Maybe tomorrow I'll look to get some more strikes depending on strength. And then some lottos today. So Reddit, which is one of the names I've been trading over the last couple months. You take a look at the implied move yesterday at this time when I was doing the rant, it was showing strength even though the market had weakness. And it was all the way at 119. Then I guess there was news that they lost their chief product officer or he resigned or whatever. And then this morning it was bouncing. And then once it got to 116, 117, I said, it might do this again. The implied move yesterday was $5. And then you look now, it was still $4. So a large implied move, which means the premiums kind of stay a little bit intact. And then there's been moves so many times over the past where it's been up 6, 7, 8% on no news, no catalyst. It did get a reiteration of a buy rating this morning by Loop Capital. So I don't know if that's some of it. But I got those spec calls. I might look for some more calls tomorrow if it shows some strength. And then MDB, and you take a look at the MDB chart since earnings. And last week on Friday, I was looking possibly to play some calls. It gave back the gap gain, still closing the green, but under 230. And I'm like, that monster report. And there's still like one analyst or two analysts that are bearish the name, and the others have a heck of a lot higher price targets and bullish ratings. So it's divisive. So I don't know if some of the sell-off this week was because of that, but take a look at the stair steps to the downside. And then finally today, it's showing green, and so was Snowflake. So I got caught up in the morning volume, and I'm like, if this thing runs, and the premiums typically on MDB, you don't get premiums. I'm trying to find the weeklies. You usually don't get premiums that inexpensive on strikes that are close to the money. So I went and got some spec lottos. They're almost a double when it hit 218, and then boom, it just sells off, melts lower for the rest of the session. This could be a name I get some calls into next week. And again, don't forget, next week, 4 trading days, markets closed for holiday June 19th. So that's MDB. Just some other names here. VKTX is still holding up somewhat on the premiums. The August are still solidly green. July strikes are down a little bit, but I'll continue to hold those. I'm still bullish. It's funny. I'm looking and Altimune's running again today. I don't know. I guess they have data out soon. I don't know. So maybe that'll help spark VKTX. But if you take a look at the VKTX chart, it's like churning, similar to SERV, right? I mean, look at this trading range over the last month and a half. It's been stuck pretty much between 26 and 28. So frustrating because it seems like every spike and you're like, okay, here we go. It gets sold off. Similar to yesterday, it was over 30 bucks. Like, okay, here comes the squeeze, the covering or news catalyst or whatever. And then it just gave it back. So hopefully one of these days, or maybe even, one of these weekends, we get some M&A, but something hopefully sparks it. And then the Julys, I can lock those in for some nice profits. And I'll hold the rest of my August into the data. I think that's about it. Roku disappointing here today. The good thing is I got spec calls far out of the money as opposed to getting closer. I was going to get the 85s. So at some point, I'll reload on some of the strikes. Also, like thankfully, I locked my lemonade strikes in, although that was holding up at 11 o'clock back over 43, but it's giving it back. So timing would have been perfect on that one. Same with W, it's down here at 46.56. And then Joby, so lucky to get out some of the Joby strikes yesterday for nearly double the cover cost. And then it's kind of fiddling around with the rest of the market. And then there's a spike at like 12:30, and it's Josh Brown on CNBC. Not going to go on a rant on him like I've done before, but nice little spike there back up to 950, and then boom, those gains are gone and then some. So hopefully, it can hold $9 here, and at some point, I'll look for some October strikes there on Joby. And I think that's it. I'm out of breath. Let's have a great day. I'll be back. Rock and roll.